Good evening. Welcome back in for another day of KC Sports Tonight. I'm joined by Gabe Schwartz tonight. I've said too many tonights there in a row. Got tongue-tied. Big news is that the Chiefs are preparing for the Jaguars for Monday Night Football, and they appear to be doing so with only one guy on the injury report. Christian Fulton was limited in practice today. Other than that, the Chiefs are looking good. Gabe, how do you feel about this matchup in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think that it's good that, they're getting a little bit of a longer week, an extra day off, given that they're playing on Monday, which is helping them get healthier. We'll see if Christian Fulton's able to play. He hasn't played since, I think he got 3 snaps in the Eagles game in week 2. And it's trending toward Mike Dana being able to return to action because he didn't play the last 2 games. He also left in the first half of the Eagles game with a hip injury. He was on the injury report. Now they're calling it a quad injury, but full participant, so that is very good news. And we've already seen several teams, whether it's the Ravens last week of guys going down before the game, guys going down in the game, and players like Kyle Hamilton, who played for most of that Chiefs-Ravens game, were listed as either limited or non-participants in practice the last 2 days for Baltimore. So we're already far enough into the season that we know that injuries are piling up for teams, and that's kind of the thing. If you've kept an eye on the early injury report in Jacksonville, their former number 1 pick, Trayvon Walker, had wrist surgery this week, and they said that he's day-to-day, a reminder that football players are much tougher than the average human being, and that he could play with a club on his hand possibly. So that's worth looking out for on Monday night, because I think that one of the things that we've learned throughout the start of this Chiefs season is the offense has looked much better when Jawaan Taylor and Josh Simmons have been able to protect, and that has gotten better throughout the season. No penalties on Jawaan Taylor Sunday against Baltimore, and Josh Simmons. Yeah, and Josh Simmons looked pretty good for the most part. So hopefully that continues, and it would be helpful if Trayvon Walker is not out there for Jacksonville on Monday night.
Yes, and fun little note there. After Jawaan Taylor had no false starts in his game, he got engaged after.
Yeah.
So congrats, Jawaan Taylor. So fun. Was hoping to catch up with him at availability today. Just couldn't track him down. But, yeah, big game not having any false starts from Jawaan Taylor was an issue. Matt Nagy admitted it was an issue that they needed to fix earlier in the season. It was promising to see that against the Ravens. But big thing here for me in this Jacksonville matchup is that they're currently number 1 in the league in takeaways. And the Chiefs have been pretty good on offense about not turning the ball over through the first 4 weeks. They only have 1 turnover. Jacksonville's leading the league right now in turnovers and forced turnovers, though. And could that be due to their dynamic first-round pick in Travis Hunter, who plays on both sides of the ball? Due to the rest of the guys, are you worried at all about turnovers playing a factor in this?
I think that turnovers, for the most part, are luck-based. That at least we've gotten to the point of football understanding that we know that over a large sample size, it usually evens out. I also think that you can probably point a little bit toward who they've played so far. It was an injured Brock Purdy for the 49ers last week, so he's not up to speed. The Niners wide receiver core was very injured, so not necessarily the best version of that team. They played the Texans, who have been one of the worst offenses in football and a really poor offensive line that you can get pressure on, and one of the interceptions in that game from C.J. Stroud was on a ball that got tipped. And so then they got Jake Browning for the most part instead of Joe Burrow the week that they played Cincinnati, and they played the Panthers. You're telling me
it's easy to pick off Jake Browning?
Well, that's what it seems like. So I think that the step up in competition for them playing against Patrick Mahomes is probably a bigger difference in skill than it is for Mahomes going up against them, given that he's already played a pretty solid Chargers defense, a really good Eagles defense, and then the Giants. You can say what you will about the Giants offense and not being scary at all, with playing Russell Wilson a couple weeks ago and them now moving on to Jackson Dart. Their defense still has a really good pass rush, and for the most part the Chiefs handled it pretty well. So I think that it's probably more of a step up in competition for the Jaguars defense going up against the Chiefs offense than it is for the Chiefs offense going up against the Jags defense. So that probably bodes well for Kansas City, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the Jags have gotten off to a 3-1 start this season. But when, like you said, when you look at the quality of the opponents they've been playing, it would be really bad if I think they didn't get off to a 3-1 start this season. I do think the Chiefs have had a much more difficult schedule through the first 4 games of the year. I think overall they're the better team. I think because the Chiefs defense has been playing so well, they've been getting 2 turnovers for the last 2 games. I don't see this being a game that the Chiefs should lose. Do I also believe that sometimes they play down to the level of their opponent, especially on the road? I mean, we all remember the game against the Panthers last year. They almost lost that game. They shouldn't have. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game simply because, how about them Chiefs, it's how it goes sometimes. But I do think the Chiefs should be able to easily get a win out in Jacksonville this weekend. Weather might play a bit of a factor because Jacksonville's currently being kind of hit with a hurricane right now. But it's really just happening this weekend. It's supposed to clear out and be okay by Monday. Of course, you never want to have a bunch of rain, otherwise maybe turnovers happen a lot more easily in that case. But I think we should be fine from that point of view. Do you think the offense stays as dominant as they were last week, or do you think that they'll take a step down?
Well, I think that what they showed against Baltimore is something that is pretty replicable against Jacksonville, especially what we saw out of Xavier Worthy and what we saw even with, if you look at how many snaps he played, Tyquan Thornton went from playing around 50-some snaps a game while Worthy was out to, I think, 25 last week, but still was pretty impactful. Yeah. We saw Hollywood Brown have a touchdown catch. We saw Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that given what we know about Juju Smith-Schuster and what he was to the Chiefs in 2022, what he was last year as a kind of security blanket, and then this season, his maximum value and Travis Kelce's maximum value is 2 guys who know how to get open and know the right place to be. They, if anything, have as good of a rapport as anyone on the roster in terms of knowing what Patrick Mahomes wants to do. And I think Xavier Worthy's is clearly getting much better and looked a different level in the first extended period of time that we got to see with him this season than it did last season. I think that all of the speed of Worthy and Thornton is going to maximize a lot of the intermediate stuff and a lot of the quick underneath stuff that Juju and Travis Kelce and even Hollywood Brown, because I think people think of him as a deep threat, but he's really more of a quick game and intermediate throws guy at this point of his career. So all of that is to say that I think that the offense, we're starting to see the actual vision that they kind of talked about in St. Joe all summer long, and Sunday against Baltimore looked like probably what they're going to want it to look like throughout the rest of the season. I think that the emergence of Brashard Smith as a pass catcher out of the backfield, seeing a Chiefs running back catch a pass, get the ball, and make somebody miss was really refreshing. I think that they can just keep building on this kind of stuff. And I mean, we're only 2 weeks away from Rashee Rice returning. So, yeah, I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy necessarily. It's still a primetime game on the road against a team that has hopes to win their division, given what we've seen out of the Texans and Titans being really bad. It seems like it's a Jaguars against the Colts for the AFC South for the most part this year. Yeah, who would have thought? But I think that the recipe for success is still there, and I think a lot of what they did against Baltimore they can do against Jacksonville.
Yeah, and something that I have realized more upon rewatching some of the Xavier Worthy highlights from the other night, it's so fun. He's not just fast. The thing that people talk the most about with him is that he can get down the field really quickly, and that opens up everything else. But what he does with the ball when he catches it, after he catches it, I think is so entertaining to watch. He's just making guys miss, and he's having fun out there. So I don't think that gets talked about enough when it comes to Xavier Worthy and what he can do with the yards after catch stat. But yeah. Offense, it got back to what, like you said, what we expected it to look like coming into the season. Do I think that Baltimore was very injury-ridden? Yeah, and that probably played a factor. I don't think it played as much of a factor as people are saying it did, though. I think that I've seen a lot of national media say, oh, well, the Chiefs had, the Ravens had this many people out, and that's why the Chiefs were able to drop 37 points. No, it's
But
because they
who was-
also had 2 takeaways.
Yeah. And who was sitting there all week long saying, you know what, I think that this Ravens defense is really, really, really bad, and they're really injured, and the Chiefs are just going to rip them apart. Nobody did. It's hindsight. So
Exactly.
People weren't doing that when Detroit did the same thing to Baltimore the week prior. So it's I think it's going to get really bleak out there for the Chiefs haters. And if you
they're
look,
doing whatever they can to say the dynasty.
If you look up
is
and down
over.
the AFC, if the Ravens are not what they're thinking, if Joe Burrow and Bengals being out really hurts the Bengals.
The Bengals out.
I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of gearing up for Chiefs Bills round 5 in the playoffs as what is the probably likeliest outcome, especially given that the Chargers did what they do and they lose to the Giants. I think people may have prematurely called the AFC West after 2 weeks. So we'll see.
I totally agree with you. And another thing, remember, you just talked about how Rashee Rice is only 2 weeks away from coming back. I feel like we haven't talked about that at all because it's been 6 week suspension, valid, but like I feel like the time has kind of flown by, and now it's like, okay, we're only 2 weeks away from seeing Rashee Rice back on the field. And how do you see that, him being back in 2-3 weeks? How do you see that affecting this offense?
Well, I think that I was in the camp through a week or two, through the first 2 weeks when Xavier Worthy was not out there and the Chiefs offense was looking really hard to operate, and it didn't look the way it looked in the preseason. It didn't look the way that everybody was talking in St. Joseph. I was of the mentality of, well, let's temper expectations, because I don't know if Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice are going to fix everything for the Chiefs offense. But given what we saw from Xavier Worthy against the Ravens, I think that
they are the Band-Aids.
I'm kind of back toward where I was thinking at the start of the season, where, the Chiefs, I think that if, assuming health, and that is quite the assumption given what we've seen from the Chiefs the last 3 years in the wide receiver room, I think that you can get to the point where you think that you have 2 highly drafted wide receivers who, throughout their rookie seasons and then into the start of their second seasons, you've seen them gain the trust of Patrick Mahomes. And when those guys are open, it makes things much easier for Travis Kelce as well, as when 36-year-old Travis Kelce, with his birthday coming up this week,
Happy birthday,
when
Travis.
he is not asked to be the number 1 option, he's much more viable as a threat, and had a really solid game against Baltimore on Sunday. And he was somehow not one of the 4 guys who scored a touchdown in that game. With all of that said, I think that it's with Rice and Worthy and Kelce and everybody out there, I think that this can be expected to be one of the 3 to 5 best offenses in the league, because it allows the Chiefs to, assuming that they can move, not put too much on Patrick Mahomes' plate and kind of make life a little bit easier for him, then I don't know why it wouldn't be one of the 3 or 5 best offenses in the league, up there with Detroit and up there with Buffalo and up there with Baltimore when Lamar Jackson's healthy and such. But that's kind of where I'm at, and I kind of, what we've seen from who the opponents are, knowing that Rashee Rice comes back against the Raiders, who are not having a great time, and then coming against the Commanders, who have been one of the very injured teams. Yes. I think that's going to be – it's good that he's not necessarily coming back in like the highest stakes point of the season, and he has a couple weeks to work in before a big game in Buffalo 3 or 4 weeks into when he's back.
Yeah, for sure. It's life is a lot prettier for Kansas City when Travis Kelce is not being triple teamed in games. Birthday coming up. His fiance's got an album coming out tonight. Before we move on, are you going to listen to the album, Gabe?
I'm not going to listen to like every song. I'm sure that it will. I'm sure I'll hear some of the songs, but I'm not staying up till midnight to listen.
You'll be getting a full recap of it from me and the other Swifties.
You're gonna dip into the entertainment section of
I mean, I'll be on here.
KCTV5.com.
I'll be on here tomorrow night, and I will be giving a review, just so we know. Okay, that's all we got for Chiefs for now, unless you want to add anything crazy. All right, college football. We've got an ASU grad and a
Yep.
sort of KU supporter in Gabe. I know if people might have seen you on 10 o'clock sports last night in Neil Jones's story,
Yeah.
given your thoughts and feelings about KU going to London. So before we get into more football stuff with the games this weekend, I'm going to give you the platform. Thoughts on KU playing in London next year?
So I understand now more than I understood when the initial report came out, which was 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
We were big haters when it came out. I was on that with you.
And I still am kind of a hater of the idea of like going overseas and giving up home games, and especially not doing it in week 0. I think that if it's in week 0, it can make sense. I think that K-State, if you could ask them to have a do-over, they're probably taking the bye week the week after and not playing in week 1 and not forcing themselves into the whole getting back from Ireland, readjusting, and then playing the same week. I think that's probably not the greatest idea. But I'm not – what I would say is I understand what the league is trying to do. It's Brett Yormark and the Big 12 trying to do anything to gain a foothold in the national conversation and do unique things that are going to get talked about. So I understand that that's why the Big 12 is doing it. I understand that KU is going to do it, and they're willing to do it. And Travis Goff put out a tweet today of, hey, we're going to have reduced capacity, so we're going to make way more money doing this in London than we would if we just played a 7th home game in Lawrence. I think that one of the like minutia of the whole thing of KU coming off of a Mizzou game, emotional letdown, and then ASU coming off of their non-conference biggest game at Texas A&M.
Emotional letdown? Are you assuming that's a loss?
Well, no, I'm not saying emotional letdown. I'm saying emotional letdown from a standpoint of the Mizzou KU game is going to be the biggest one of the year in terms of excitement for KU and the fan base, especially having it be back in Lawrence for the first time in over a decade. So all of that is to say, I think that it's a cool experience for the student athletes. It's a cool trip. The athletic directors are going to talk about them getting to visit things and go out and do a lot of things. It's still, for the lack of a better term, a business trip for these schools.
And
like they're going over there to win a game.
And the fact that they're going week 3, they don't even get to experience as much as they would be if they were going week 0.
Yeah, because they'd be able to
they're getting
go
there
over
like 2
for
days
a full week before. So there's all of those types of things. If you're going as a fan, if you're a KU fan or an ASU fan, I haven't decided if I'm going to go or not. And if I am going, I'm sure it will be a really cool trip.
Our boots on the ground.
I think that Wembley Stadium is an incredible venue, and it's way different than even Dublin because it's almost double the capacity of the stadium that K-State and Iowa State played in. So that's different as well. But if KU had a full David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium, I would be really banging the drum as a person who grew up rooting for KU and knows a lot of people who have season tickets and such, that it's ridiculous to continue to take games out of Lawrence when you just did the whole games in KCK, games at Arrowhead, and you saw how tough that was. But only 3 Big 12 games next year, that's kind of a bummer. But they've got the full non-conference schedule. So, yes, there's pros, there's cons. It'll be unique. It's a talking point. I don't know how many people are going to wake up and die for week 3, an 8 a.m. game, presumably, because if they're just – that's the other thing. If they're playing it at like 11 a.m.
that sucks.
Against other 11 a.m. games that are in the States, then it's not getting you additional eyeballs.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be an 8 a.m. game, and then if
6 a.m.
somebody's going to be
time?
boots on the ground in Lawrence that Saturday, going to brunch spots, watching KU fans watch a college football game at 8 a.m.
The mimosas will be flowing at 8 a.m. in Lawrence.
Yeah.
But and like I said, that's like 6 o'clock in most times in Arizona. So I pretty much agree with you on like literally everything. I'm of the belief that college football is a regional sport. I compare it to like if England had 2 soccer teams that were like England teams and they're coming to play a game against each other at Arrowhead Stadium. I wouldn't even go if the tickets were free. Like I have no interest in that. I don't know how many people in England, like, is Wembley Stadium going to be full of 90,000
I would think so.
people?
I would think so because it's
a lot of
it's
people.
something that they don't normally get to see. I also just go to, like, I saw the comments from Kenny Dillingham yesterday, and he got asked about it, and the soundbite was, I think, 11 seconds, and he was like, it's a challenge. It's something different for us. It's going to be different for our routine. It's a challenge, but I guess we're going, so we're going. And I haven't heard what Lance Leipold said, but I will just say that the athletic directors, they are 100 times more excited about going than the coaches,
For obvious
because
reasons.
it's not their life and it's not their routine that is being disrupted,
And they're making money.
and their livelihood at stake.
Yeah.
So,
and they're going
there
to be
you
making
go.
money. And the whole nother thing, like you said, like the coach's livelihood are at stake here because they have to win in their conference now. Because if you win your conference, you go to the college football playoff.
Yep.
Conference games are too important. I think this should have been a non-conference game. Should have been week 0. Should have been a non-conference game. I understand the Big 12 wants to go global, and international TV rights are a thing that no one in college sports is exploring. And Brett Yormark said yesterday that now that is something that this can be used to explore. And the Big 12 could be the first team to do that. But again, like I said, fan bases, like they want to have the games in their home stadiums. England's really expensive. Like flying to England, like that's a little crazy for most people of most financial means in today's day and age. But yeah, I could go on a soapbox, like I'm sure you
North
would
Carolina
as well.
TCU in week 0 in Ireland, non-conference game,
Yep.
standalone game, a lot of eyeballs. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Playing Farmageddon, one of the games that we thought might determine the Big 12 race. In hindsight, maybe it didn't.
Bad idea.
The other counterpoint would be maybe K-State's season doesn't go the way it goes.
It's the curse of the Irish.
Yeah, and it's the old meme of like has it worked for anybody? No, but it'll work for us. That's what I feel like athletic directors
So you're
are
saying
when they
there's a
send
chance.
everybody overseas to play college football games. But
Yeah. All right. Well,
to the games this week.
You heard it here. We're haters. And
Yeah.
we'll live and die by that. It's okay. Okay, college football preview. KU is heading on the road this week to UCF. So both KU and the Chiefs heading to Florida this week. Super exciting. K-State, big test on the road in Waco, taking on Baylor. Mizzou is on a bye. So we'll talk some KU and K-State. We'll start with KU since we were just talking about them anyways. What do you think? How do you think the Jayhawks bounce back from this? Do you think UCF is that good? Should this be a challenge for KU?
Of the Big 12, I don't think UCF is that good.
Agree.
But it's a road game at night against a team that until last week was undefeated, and a team that hasn't had a lot of chances against teams, a lot of meaningful opportunities at home as of late. They've gotten a lot better under Scott Frost than they were, or when they were in their heyday under Scott Frost. He's back again. So there's kind of that rejuvenation in the program. I think KU's at the point of their program where we saw the issue on Saturday against Cincinnati, the one-score games, the situational football. A lot of the problems that plagued them last year are still the same issue. They're not good in the last 4 minutes of the first half. They're not good situationally at the end of games for the most part. The situational football at the end of the first half cost them against Mizzou a lot, and the situational football at the end of both the first half and the second half wasn't great against Cincinnati. So I think that's the thing is it's such a slim margin of what determines success and failure in the Big 12, because I say this all the time, like the difference in skill across the 16 teams in this league is just not significant. The recruiting margins are not very large for the most part, because these schools, there's not a Georgia and Alabama. It's not the SEC. It's not the 5 stars all over the place. So for the most part, it's about continuity and rosters, and then it's about executing in tight games. And the team that won the Big 12 last year, ASU, has won 9 straight games, and a lot of them are 9 straight conference games, and a lot of those come down to they beat TCU by 3 last week. They beat Baylor by 3 in their first game. So we see that, and then you see KU lose by 3. It's going to be that for a lot of these conference games. I think that's the thing with K-State. That you would think that they're outmatched against Baylor, but I think that that's probably a one-score game as well in Waco. And it really just comes down to situational football as to who's going to separate in the Big 12 and ultimately who avoids the landmines of losing games you're supposed to win. And I think Cincinnati was a game that KU was supposed to win. I think UCF's a game that KU is supposed to win. You have to win the games that you're supposed to and then steal 1 or 2 of the ones that you're not supposed to win. And the 1 or 2 that they're not supposed to win for KU, you would think, is the at Texas Tech, the at Iowa State. So avoiding the quote-unquote bad losses on your schedule gives you the opportunity to maximize the games where they're more of toss-ups, but they're kind of all toss-ups in the Big 12 just because the skill gap is so small. So I think that this is it's a real test for KU to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think KU needs to win this game because then they go on the road to Texas Tech after, and I just don't want to see how this team would perform on the road at Tech, who's proving to be one of the biggest threats in the Big 12, if they're in a 2-loss rut in the Big 12. I just don't see them. I don't see that being a good space for them to climb out of that, and I see that becoming a 3-loss in the Big 12 situation. So KU needs to win this game just to kind of get its mojo back. I was disappointed with the way they tackled in their last game because I thought they had been tackling a little bit better through the first few weeks. So intrigued to see if that gets better against UCF. K-State, before we run out of time, do you think they're back on track, or did they just play UCF?
They played UCF until proven otherwise. I think that the other thing that you can point to is just the rushing numbers and the willingness of them to use Avery Johnson. I don't know if they've gotten to the point of their season where they push the emergency button of just like, you know what, we're going to run him, and if
let him loose.
If he gets hurt, he gets hurt, because I think that a lot of the comments that we've seen, whether it's Chris Kleiman or Matt Wells and all of the K-State comments, has been that they just want to preserve him.
Yeah.
So if they want to preserve him and they want to play it safe, it's going to look a lot like it did at the start of the season. And if they want to maybe put him at risk a little bit more, but also unlock the maximum potential of the offense, they have to let Avery Johnson run. I just don't know if they will.
Agree 100%. We've been saying it all season so far. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight on KC Sports Tonight. We're here every weekday at 5:30 and, of course, on weekends at 10:30. So tune in, and thanks for joining.